Good morning, guys. My name's Nathan. I'm the Fifth+Sixth pastor out at Fort Worth campus. Welcome to this morning's Devo. So this morning we're going to be in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. So if you have a second, go ahead and grab your Bible, maybe a pen and paper, pause this video, and flip open to that page. Cool. All right. Hopefully we're all back. Now, if you have a second, go ahead and read that actually. So press pause on this video one more time. Read through those verses real quick. Shouldn't take you too long. I'll be here when you get back. And we're back. Okay, cool. So, some of you have probably heard this story before, or something super similar. Basically, this rich guy, super rich guy, is going on a long trip. And this is an era, obviously in the time of Jesus, before things like mobile banking exists. So he has to leave some of his most trusted servants in charge with all of his money. After all, if you went on a cruise or a trip to the Bahamas or Hawaii or something like that, would you like to come back home with no money at all and end up absolutely broke? Probably not. So this guy wanted to make the wise choice, make sure someone was taking care of his money while he was gone. Now, two of the servants completely outperformed their master's expectations. They were smart. They invested his money in stocks or like a Kickstarter of some world-changing product, maybe TikTok, no one knows. And when he comes back, they were able to give him back twice as much as what he originally left them with. So you and I probably aren't financial gurus, but imagine this. If I gave you $10 and then you returned $20 to me to keep, I'd say that's a pretty good deal, right? Yeah, so that's basically what happened here. But then there's the third servant, the lazy one who's a little bit scared, doesn't really know what to do with his master's money, and he ends up digging a hole in his backyard. Like, who does that? Digs a hole in his backyard, buries his master's money in it, and then goes back inside to unpause his video game. Now, you can imagine the master was probably pretty dang unhappy with this. And in fact, we see that he fires the guy right on the spot. Now, some of you might relate more to this, some of you. Imagine that you're going on a family vacation, like you probably did over spring break, but your parents tell you no phones and no Snapchat. So you leave your Snapchat login info with one of your best friends, expecting them to keep your streak going, but then you come back home only to find out that they never logged in and you lost your streak. I'm sure you would be upset. Yeah, so maybe that helps put it into perspective. Now, as we move on, obviously the story is about money. Talents, by the way, if you haven't caught on, is a form of money back in the day. And one single talent back then, costed about 20 years worth of labor and work and wages. So a lot of money that we're talking about. But anyways, I don't want to just focus on this money, although you should be taking care of your money if you have like a consistent allowance or whatever. Don't just go waste it on hot Cheetos and Takis. Like, do something worthwhile with it or spend it on something worthwhile. But I think this story has a lot more meaning to it. Again, just like Ethan said, the West Campus MSN pastor who gave our devotional yesterday morning, if you were here for it, he said a parable, which is what this story is just a story that Jesus told that has some really solid meaning behind it, like a biblical truth. And that's what we're going to try and get behind here in the next minute or two. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about everything that God has entrusted you with. This master entrusted his servants with his own money. But what stuff do you have more than enough of? What abilities do you have? What are you naturally good at? What are you passionate about? Even how much free time do you have? Because if you're like me, it's probably more than you think, and I know I have a ton of free time right now. But are we using those things that God has entrusted us with in the way that God would want us to use them? Are you finding ways to serve your family this week with that free time, with whatever you're good at, your gifts? Are we sacrificing some of that time? So here's what this story is all about. The ultimate point of Jesus' story in Matthew 25, 14 through 30 is this: that your life is not your own. God is the God of the universe. He created everything, including us. So he is creator, we are creation. We owe him for all the life that we have and experience. Everything that you have has been given to you by God. And I'm sure you've heard that before. But God actually cares about how you use that. He is the most generous and selfless being in all of the universe. And you can bet he cares about how you use the money and the stuff and the time and the abilities he has given you. He expects you to use those in a generous way. Because think about this. The most generous and selfless gift that God has ever given us is life. So, what are you doing with the life and the stuff that God has given you? What can you give away? Whose day could you brighten? Maybe it's your family members, your parents, or your siblings. Right now, everybody needs a little bit of extra love, right? So, what are you doing with this stuff that God has given you, especially your time? So, I want us to take a second, 30 seconds to a minute. Doesn't have to be long, but just like yesterday, I want you to talk to God right now. I want you to pray and ask God to make you more aware of the stuff that He's given you. What has He entrusted you with? Maybe it's time. Maybe it's just natural good gifts. Maybe you're really good at telling jokes and you can use that. I don't know what it is. But ask God to make you more aware of those things. And then ask Him how you can use those things in a generous and selfless way with all this free time that we have right now, with those around you, whether that's your friends, but most likely your family. Ask Him to reveal those things to you. And the last thing I want to leave you with is this. Do something selfless and generous today, this week, with God's stuff. Love you guys. Check back at 2 p.m. We'll be here with more content.